Welcome back to the Bat Flip Bombs podcast. Your host Brock, co-host Connor. Let's get right into it this week. I know you've brought up to me a few times. Let's talk about Tennessee. We got a big series this weekend. Tennessee and Kentucky. They're kind of both battling, hoping to host, and it's at UT.
Yeah.
And their record on the road and at home are way different. So
yeah.
What do you think's gonna happen this weekend?
Personally, I'm not high on Kentucky. Just in general, I wouldn't say they're like a fluke, but I don't think they're as good as what people are saying that they are. But I do think that Tennessee's home record for itself speaks for itself. I mean, they're winning like 90+% of the games at home. And then if you look at their road record, where they've been struggling a lot this year, I know everyone's going to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, Tennessee's not doing great this year. I think if you take Tennessee at home and Tennessee on the road, completely different teams.
Oh, yeah.
So I think their road record, I think they win like maybe 30% of the games.
Yeah.
And then at home, they're winning 90+% of the games. Or maybe not 90, but like 85.
You said they were like 29-4 or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, which is close to 90%. And they're like, what, 7 and something on the road? It's something crazy. And I think Tennessee will take care of business at home. I kind of attribute it to their crowd that they've built.
Yeah.
I mean, any time under like Vitello now, it seems like they're just filling the stadium.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how well they've built a crowd so quick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just probably 3 or 4 years ago, there was like nobody to be found at Tennessee baseball games.
No, and I couldn't even I remember thinking, back when I transferred to Tech, I was like, when we played Tennessee, I was like, oh, who cares,
Yeah.
Like
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares about it. I mean, they had some good players on their team, but it was just like, it's just Tennessee. You're not going to get like a huge crowd. It's not that meaningful.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you want to beat them, but it's not that meaningful. But now it's become like this whole different atmosphere there. That they packed the house every single game, it seems like at this point, and like the crowd really gets into it. So I think that really gets their momentum. I think it really gets their pitching staff more, gets them more involved and stuff. And you can see it when like Chase struck out the side against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean they get pumped, they get loud there too. I mean the renderings for the new field are gonna be crazy.
That's gonna be super nice.
But I think the defense on the road has just been so bad, and I keep talking about it. I feel like week in, week out, but the defense on the road is abysmal. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Like, if they could just put that together, I'm pretty sure their road record would be 50% better.
Oh, I'm sure you're right. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just also like don't get like amped up for road games. Because I was watching the series against Georgia last week, and again, Georgia is Georgia. Like, I still don't think they're good enough to put them in a regional at this point. But I mean, you got Charlie Condon and you got Connor Tate. Both those guys are unbelievable, and they single-handedly scored like 4 runs off of one of the chases.
Condon's gonna be unbelievable.
Oh yeah, for being a freshman, that's insane. Like his approaches to things just looked so good. Whenever I was like watching it, I was like, dude, he's like Dollinger's throwing 97, like 2 balls off, and he's not even like flinching at it. And I'm like, dude, a freshman, and then like he'll like rope an inside 96.
Yeah, he's a redshirt freshman, which is so weird.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did that change happen? How do you go from getting redshirted to being freshman of the year?
I'm sure if we talked to someone at Georgia, they'd be like, this is one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I guess that's not really what we were talking about. We're talking about Tennessee, but yeah, I don't know. I would say since they're home this weekend, they'll probably take care of business.
I would think so as well. I think they kind of have to too. I mean, I think they're both playing for a lot right now. I mean, Kentucky and Tennessee are both borderline regional hosts right now, so they are both playing for a lot. So this is a big series, and I think it's just gonna mean more for the people down in Knoxville.
Yeah, because I think both of them, if they can win this series and the next one, and then have a good tournament, both have a good shot to host.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see which one it happens to. You brought this up to me probably last week. How good would mid-majors be if there wasn't a transfer portal?
I mean, I think they'd be pretty good. I think there'd be a lot more mid-majors that you're like, dang, this team can hold their own with anyone. Kind of like what you're seeing with Campbell right now. But I think it's like the fact that the way that Campbell's playing right now is like kids don't want to leave Campbell.
Yeah, why would you?
I mean, you're ranked top 20 in the country. Why would you leave?
You're almost guaranteed to make a regional each year.
Yeah, so there's like not really a point to leave, but I think, even if you look at like smaller schools, like for example, like what we went through, I mean, where there's Christian Herberholtz, who left, and he went to a JUCO, but now he's starting Sundays at Auburn. You have Ty Fisher, who's Friday Saturday starter for Georgia Southern. I mean, you have Gabe Lacey, who's now at Southern Miss. You have Ed Johnson, who's hitting 3-hole for Alabama. I mean, even Gardino, even though he's not playing much at Alabama, he still went to Alabama. Yeah. And you just have a bunch of and then Brett Roberts, he went to Florida State, draft pick, and hit 3-hole at Florida State. And it's that's from a team who, back when those guys were on the team, I mean, sure, some of them were there at different time periods. We weren't a borderline top 25 team.
No.
So it's kind of just if everyone did stay at mid-majors, I think that the mid-majors would definitely be more competitive. You wouldn't see as much of a gap between, and I'm not saying there truly is one right now because it's baseball.
And it's been one of the best years, honestly, for the mid-majors.
Yeah, I don't think there's truly much of a gap at all, but I think it would even be closer than what it is. I think you would find a lot of borderline teams that are going to make the NCAA tournament be mid-majors than, take the 10th team from the SEC.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
I think a lot of the guys that are on these SEC teams now, or that are kind of the glue guys and hold the team together, are the guys who were dominant in the mid-major conferences. So if they don't have those guys, then those teams probably aren't nearly as good. I mean, I'm sure somebody would step up, but...
Oh, I mean, but even look at Tennessee. Different. I mean, I'm not saying that Tennessee took a bunch of mid-major guys because they really didn't. But I mean, if you look at Maui Ahuna going from Kansas to Tennessee, and then you have Griffin Merritt who went from Cincinnati to Tennessee.
Dolander.
Yeah, exactly.
Halverson.
Yeah.
Who else? Zane Denton.
Yeah.
I mean, you
can name them all. Before the draft, they had a kid from Connecticut
that
was going to come in. So it's if the transfer portal wasn't a thing, those kids wouldn't be able to do it. Well, I think Griffin Merritt was a grad transfer anyways, so I guess he could have. But, a lot of those guys wouldn't be able to just move like that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. I would think that, the mid-majors would definitely produce, even more talent in a year that, mid-majors are still good.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. I think mid-majors definitely would be better than what they currently are if there was no transfer portal. And, again, some might say the opposite, where now someone who doesn't really play much at a big school can go down to a mid-major and play right away and could help the team out there, but it just doesn't really work like that. It's not helping mid-majors for you to go and poach a bench guy at an ACC school.
No.
As much as it helps you to
Power
keep...
5.
Yeah, I mean, it would help the mid-majors out a lot more if they could just keep their guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. Mid-majors definitely get hurt the most in the transfer portal.
Gotta feel bad for them. I mean, they're getting good. They're getting more talented guys, but it's also hit or miss guys.
Yeah. Did you see the who was it? It was Wright's coach now. Mm-hmm. Currently, there was an interview that he gave. I don't know if it was with D1 or with someone else, that they were asking him, what do you tell freshmen or incoming freshmen, high school seniors and juniors, what do you tell them to kind of with this whole transfer portal where everyone's older?
Yeah.
And then the Rice coach was saying how, if you can come in and play right away, that's great, but at this point in time, no one cares if you play right away. Mm-hmm. Because the whole thought process with the transfer portal and everything is, I mean, if we only need 2 positions to fill, obviously you're going to try to be when it used to be look to a freshman to kind of fill that role, they just say, okay, well, I'm just going to go out and get a kid who either was a stud at a D2, or I'm going to go get a kid who was a bench warmer at Texas or whatever to fill a role. Or, I'll try to get another kid from a smaller mid-major school or a JUCO guy. And they're like, oh, we'll just fill those roles that way.
Yeah.
But, and when it used to be oh, crap, we got to move someone around, and, there's a good freshman in this position, so he can play there, and then we'll move someone else to that position. Mm-hmm. So it almost seems what they have to tell freshmen these days is...
I know, and you keep seeing, a bunch of these freshmen now come in and expect to play first thing, and it's just, that's not how it's going to work.
No.
I mean, very often, that's not how it's going to work. That's never really how it's worked. But now they have the opportunity to just cop out and transfer, which is, I think, probably, it's just such a weak move and a non-team move, in my opinion.
And I mean, it's tough because it's as a freshman, what do you really expect? Because, I mean, I remember going to college, to be honest, me, again, going to Tech might be, a little bit different, but we didn't really have that many old guys on our team our freshman year. But it wasn't, crazy, well, it wasn't young, but there wasn't,
We weren't young, but we weren't...
It was older than what the team was at Louisville. I remember there was only 3 seniors my
Yeah.
first semester there. Like, I mean, a senior was
really?
like weird.
Oh, I thought you said we weren't older at Tech.
Oh, no. You guys were older at Tech, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
weren't old like compared to today.
Oh no,
Like
not
compared
at
to
all.
today,
Not at
like
all.
not old, but I'm saying like Louisville, like we were even younger
Mhm.
than at Tech, and it was like, oh, a senior was like weird. So you'd have more
Yeah.
opportunities to play, but now it's like, okay, we'll add 2 more years
Mhm.
to like the oldest guy on the team, and be like, oh yeah, and then add like 10 more guys on the team and say, oh yeah, you're a freshman, go play right away. Like that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Just
Like
not gonna happen.
they're not gonna give you that first look.
No. I think that's been such a big thing. I'm wondering to see how these new recruiting rules will kind of sway guys, if at all. Because I mean, not being able to have guys to talk to guys before they're a junior or senior.
There's ways around it.
There's ways around it, I'm sure, with the camps and stuff.
Camps, I mean-
camps will start to be huge. There'll start to be a ton of them now.
Oh yeah, I mean, just think about this though. You could always call the high school coach, and then be like, "Oh, he's
Well, you
happens
can't do
to
that
be-"
either.
You can't.
You can't do that. But what I was told is there's going to be probably a movement for people to get advisors way earlier, which will
It'd
end
be
up
smart.
being
It'd be smart.
which will end up being the kind of the move for the high school guys that are looking to get recruited.
Which is, I think, just horrible in general for.
I know, it's terrible.
everything. Like, dude, you don't need to commit when you're 12 years old.
No, not at all.
Like, that's pretty much what
It's
kids are doing
ridiculous,
now.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how things play out. With the mid majors, I've got another question to come off of this. What do you think the best mid major program is in history?
In history, holy moly, mid-major. I mean, you got to go Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
I mean, like,
you can't really argue against that.
no, you can't argue against it. They've been to like 17 College World Series.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've actually won. I think they've won a couple. I don't know.
Yeah, they. I think.
But they've been there a lot. They've even been there recently.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to not say them.
Exactly.
So I'd definitely go Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like who are some other really good mid majors like
Long Beach State.
Yeah.
Historically is really good.
Yeah, Dallas Baptist has been good, but I don't know if that's recent or not. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
I'm sure we're forgetting
Oh, I know.
some. I mean, if we want to go back to the 1950s, you go Maine.
Has Fresno always been good, or were they just good that one year?
No, they weren't even good that year that they won it.
Really?
Yeah, they were like one of the last seeds in their conference tournament, and they won the conference tournament. And
Oh
then
my
they
gosh.
just kept winning in regionals. So
There's got to be. Is there a 30 for 30 on that?
there's a book. I read the book.
There's got to be a 30 for 30 made on that. I mean, ESPN. Let's.
Well,
pick it up
in
a
the
little
book,
bit.
they talk about how like they weren't even like supposed to make it out of their conference tournament, and then when
That's
they started just winning, and they were like, oh, this is awesome, and they just kind of were like, oh, let's just keep going, and then they just kept winning,
Oh my goodness.
and they ended up winning the whole thing.
Who would you say is the best in the past 20 years?
Mid-major,
Mm-hmm.
still gotta go Fullerton, right?
Well, yeah. Oh,
Because I mean they've been.
I want to
they've-
say Coastal, just because Coastal's been consistently good, like every single
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, Coastal's been good.
But at the same time, they've only been to one College World Series, and they did win it. But
Yeah, but I mean Fullerton's been to the College World Series
Fullerton's
multiple
been, like,
times.
8 times or something like that.
Yeah, it's not like a little bit.
No.
Like they consistently go.
Yeah.
Which is weird because like that conference is. I mean, I thought Fullerton was kind of down at the beginning of the year. I mean, they played well at the beginning, and then they hit like a little lull, and now they're first in the conference, and that conference is like.
Nasty.
I mean, I only have 2 teams coming from that conference, but in reality, like I could argue 4 of those teams would hold their own against a lot of teams in like regionals, but no one's gonna love the Big West, right?
Nope, nobody. Except for us. Yeah, we'll love on Big West. Big West is unbelievable. All right, so now since we got the mid-major out of the way, what is the best program in college baseball history?
You go first. I want you to pick first.
I will go first. I'm going to go Texas.
Okay.
And I don't think there's too much of an argument against for national championships won, College World Series appearances, just the consistency of how good they've been for the past forever.
Yeah, I'll go a different approach and say LSU, just because they've won like the same amount of College World Series. Yes, LSU has been to 14 College World Series less than Texas. I wouldn't even argue LSU has more recent success because I think it's kind of the same for both of them.
I think so too.
But I will say that their record is like 40-26 in the College World Series, when Texas's is like 80 or is it 80 or is it 60 something? They're more closer to 500 than LSU is, and then I'm also gonna say LSU hasn't, or has been to the College World Series every single time after the year 1985. So 1986 was their first, and then their last one was 2019. When Texas, I'm sure, they made it in 1960-something. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't following college baseball in 1960.
Yeah, but so is the only thing...
Was there even college baseball, or were they still barnstorming in that day? I mean,
is the only thing to make a good program College World Series appearances and championships?
But no, not necessarily, but...
And then to have the most appearances?
I mean, we shouldn't be basing it off of that, but... Because I'm sure LSU has been pretty successful in winning percentages, too.
Yeah,
I don't know the stats. And then, we can get into the argument if you're going to say, okay, their win percentage every year has been over this. They could have played a bunch of...
I ain't got time for that.
They got a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
You could play a bunch of... Like, I could go out and play freaking... I don't know, who's terrible this year? Western Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a team like that for out-of-conference weekends, and I could be like, oh, shit, I'm 20-0. You know? And next thing you know, it's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't know. I do think Texas definitely holds the throne, though.
I do, too. Yeah, I think Texas.
I just want to give a little bit different of a perspective.
Even though I hate Texas. Absolutely hate Texas.
I wonder why.
I got no clue. Who knows?
You hate one person on Texas.
No, I hate Texas.
Huh. I still think you hate one person on Texas than the
others.
Obviously,
we hate Cody Clemens more than anybody else. But
didn't he get popped for steroids?
It was either him or his brother. I can't remember which one.
Well, Clemens.
Well, the father as well.
Yeah. So.
But. Yeah, Texas is probably. I mean, they probably have the greatest college baseball coach of all time too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So
I will say though, Cody Clemens did do pretty well that weekend.
Sure did.
If only we walked him.
If only we walked Cody Clemens. If only.
Can't reminisce.
Let's just not. Not talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I don't. It's kind of hard to tell because we don't know exactly who they've played and everything each year.
Yeah, but I still think Texas deserves it.
Yeah, I would say conference championships probably would be a great way to.
Actually, a story. So when I was the GA at Tech and Steve was working, he coached against Augie, Gierda, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was saying that Augie would make Texas play a ton of games. Like compared to today when you play 56, he said they would be playing 70 games a season. They would be playing 3 midweeks a week. They just play because he just loved playing. And he thought that was the best way to get his kids better than practicing was just playing.
Yeah.
And he said he would rotate lineups more frequently in midweeks and stuff, and he would just say, "Yeah, I could just go play."
I kind of like that. I wish they could do that today.
I know, and now there's isn't there a rule on 56 games or something
56
like that?
is the max. Yeah.
I don't know. I would personally have liked to play more.
I would like to play more. I mean, nobody likes practicing anyway.
I mean, and think about it. If you play so many midweek games, give a kid an off day and say, oh, you have a test, you don't have to come today.
Yeah.
Even it could be a position player too, and be oh, if you play 2 or 3 midweeks every week, you could be oh, these guys aren't gonna come this one. Position players, you could literally, because I don't know, then you're getting into a huge argument because people are gonna take advantage of that and say well, we need to boost our RPI and our records. So then you're gonna be
That's true.
Yeah, then you're gonna be oh well, this team's sitting out 5 of their starters. Let's take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I would have liked to have played more. Just from
I would like
my
to play
standpoint.
more, but I get that it's tough.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of tough, starting your conference tournament 2 weekends before anybody else is. What is the Patriot doing?
I don't know. I mean, they're student athletes now, like future leaders. I don't know. That's what their motto is. So maybe it has to do something with school, or maybe I don't know. Maybe this is crazy because I know they have 2 military schools in their conference. Maybe it has to do with that. Maybe they do it because let's just say that team doesn't win the conference. Maybe those 2 schools have stuff that they have to go do in the summertime. I have no idea. It's definitely a different approach, and the way that they do it is they play They only take 4 teams. Their conference is only 6.
Yeah.
So, a lot of teams make it, I guess, in that. But you take 2, and then they play head-to-head, and they play a series, and the winners of that go, and they play another series. And then that determines the winner the next weekend. And I guess they get a weekend off before they have to go into, the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't play another weekend of conference play.
Yeah.
Or just extend the season out, one more week. I don't I don't know.
That's very puzzling to me.
Again, it might be because they have a military school.
It could be. It could be like something with their graduation. I don't know if that would be it, but
Yeah, or maybe
they graduate later.
Because I know a lot of those like academic Northeast schools. A lot of the times they'll like be like, oh, we want kids to have a true summer.
Yeah.
So they're. Or like, oh, we want them to like really be able to do an internship. So like you end early, so like you won't miss any internships. Because I mean, internships start early now.
Yeah.
Like early.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had to start my internship 2 years ago, like a week after I was supposed to, just because I like it was still playing baseball.
Yeah.
So I mean and that wasn't even we didn't even make the NCAA tournament.
No.
So
We didn't even make our conference tournament. It's COVID. Four teams only made it.
Yeah.
We're
So
the fifth.
yeah, which that's so depressing. But yeah. So I don't know. It's like one of those things that maybe it's that, but it's definitely a bold move. I'm really excited. I actually am probably going to watch some of those games this weekend, just because that's postseason baseball. Like we're there. We're knocking on the door to postseason baseball now. I gotta watch it. I do like Army a lot. Actually,
I do too.
The Patriot just put out their Player of the Year and their Pitcher of the Year and stuff. And I actually played the Player of the Year in high school.
Really?
Yeah, he went to Venice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went to Venice. He's hitting like 400 this year, like 10 home runs. So.
Who is it?
Kevin Dubrul.
I don't think I know him.
I mean, he definitely was on our preseason.
Yeah, let's talk about your second base pick for our
Who was my second base
midseason D1.
JJ Weatherholt.
Yeah,
He's unbelievable.
and we didn't even know.
I didn't know how good
We
he
didn't
was.
know who JJ Weatherholt was, and now he's
Actually, I just watched.
he's the highest average in the country.
I know. Well, you know who else we didn't pick that I'm really upset at?
Paul Skeens. Oh,
No,
never mind.
I picked
Never
Paul
mind.
Skeens. I mean, of course.
I thought I was talking
No,
about the beginning.
Florida's Langford.
Yeah, Wyatt Langford. Yeah.
Why didn't we pick him? It's not like he had a bad average. He just wasn't as good. He just didn't have.
Yeah, he just didn't have as
Do you
good
see his
numbers.
average now? He's
Isn't
like
it
hitting
nuts?
400
Yeah.
now, and he has like 17 home runs.
Yeah.
And he actually, I think he.
Yeah,
has
that's
like
why it was the midseason.
It was, yeah, that's right.
Mid-season All-American,
That's why I was a
you know?
mid-season. But Weatherholt, I actually watched him get picked off today. Twice. He got picked off twice.
I mean, he came out of nowhere. I feel like
He did. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. He's really good. I mean, I'm also like at the
30
time.
bags too.
Oh, I know. Call me crazy because I do think these picks were crazy. The two Georgia kids, but
Yeah,
they're actually doing well.
they're doing well.
They're doing well.
I didn't know what Connor Tate looked like until after, and boy, was that surprising. I see outfielder by the name, and for some reason in my head, I had a skinny lefty who was fast
No.
and like
He's
had
6'3".
pop. He is not skinny. He is not a lefty, but he does have pop.
He does have pop. And you know what's crazy about him? It seems like whenever we look at Georgia baseball, he always has the big time like runs. Like he is clutch. Like both of them are
Condon, Tate, and Parks Harbor.
Parks Harbor, dude. What a name. And dude, they're their three best hitters by far.
I know.
But I mean, and then it's like there's two that are like by far their best. And then there's Parks who just hits nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, but like I personally don't think they're good enough to throw them into a regional and say, do something. Like
I think I think they'll get in.
Yeah, it's all this SEC bias where we want to take all 14 teams.
I just told you the SEC's non-conference record this year.
I get it.
It's 81% win percentage.
But you got to look at each team individually. Like they are not. They're still like ranked like overall record. They're like sitting at 10th in the conference still.
Yeah.
Like and
I think there's just too much parity in the SEC this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I just feel like it's getting out of control that people are like, in this year's SEC, they're like, you know what, let's take all of them, pretty much. Like, that's like what you're going to argue, because if you look at Georgia's record compared to Mississippi State and Ole Miss's record, it's not that much different.
Yeah.
So,
I think the only thing maybe that would be holding it, or like making that happen the most, is that the ACC and Big 12 are normally like powerhouse conferences, and those teams are not nearly as good.
They are like,
as they normally are.
I mean, even if you look at D1's thing though, they're taking a ton of ACC schools and they're just throwing them as
Notre
hosts.
Dame out there is
I have
surprising to me.
I have Notre Dame in there because they've been surprising everyone. They're hot. They're hot.
Yes, they are hot.
I mean, if they cool down, they're screwed. Like they're not making it. But dude, the fact that D1 just like 2 weeks ago didn't even have Clemson in it, and now they're like 11 national seed.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
To a point. Like, I mean, and I'm not going at, like, D1 or anything, but it's just, like, I feel like there's, like, a bias there that's, like, oh, the ACC is just better than everyone else. And, like, okay, as much as that might be true, we have to look at, like, an overall resume.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, like, I don't... And the thing is, like, remember one year, Old Dominion was the 1 seed, and then South Carolina hosted as, like, the 2.
Yeah.
I kind of could maybe see that happening with Campbell, but the fact that, like, no one's even giving them, like, hosting, like,
I know.
thought is, like, dude, they dominated ECU, they dominated UNC in midweeks this year. Like, they...
Coastal, too.
Yeah, like, they've just dominated those teams. They're doing exactly what they need to do in conference. Like we said a couple weeks ago, they just can't drop a weekend conference series, and they've been running the table.
Yeah,
recently.
I mean, they've only have 2 losses in conference all year.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, their last weekend of the year, they play USC Upstate. How, fitting is that? You play the next best team in your conference. Like, and those 2 teams are by far the 2 best teams. But it's like no one's giving him, like, hosting, like, love. And it's like, D1, you guys got him at 13.
I know. Some of the picks they have that are hosting just baffle me.
I think Boston College is... And again, like, I'm just bringing in D1 into light because that's the one that I look at after I do my things. Like, after I send it to Brock, I'm like, okay, let's see how I did compared to D1. And then D1 has their things. Actually, I put ours out before D1 puts theirs out. And then they put theirs out after. But I still compare to theirs, so that's the only reason why I'm bringing up D1. But Boston College hosting kind of confuses me. I'm warming up to the idea of UConn hosting. They've been doing well. I'm warming up to it. I'm starting to think that they're pretty decent, actually. But it's like, there's like a bias.
Kentucky at 8.
Kentucky at 8 was kind of weird. And, like, you and I discussed this. Like, maybe D1 looks at their schedule in, like, the future and says, okay, well, how many of these games do they have a chance at winning? Because Kentucky's playing Tennessee this weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just assuming they're going to beat Tennessee.
Which is wild.
Which is wild if you look at that at home record. That is nuts. But, like, I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know. I don't see, like, it turning out the way that it is.
No, not at all.
I don't see it.
I'm with you there. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting to watch all these conference tournaments. You were talking about the Southland tournament earlier, with it being like a regional and then a super regional. I love that.
Yeah, it's actually a really good idea. I think it's way different. Way different. So they start a week after the Patriots, so it's when Patriots playing their final, like their final series. They start their playoffs a week earlier than everyone else does. And they do it, they take the top 8 teams, they just seed them like 1 through 8, and one hosts one like little region, and then 2 hosts the other region, and then you'll have like 1 playing 8, 4, and 5 with 1, and then you'll have like 2, 7, 3, 6 in the other one. And then they just play it like a regional, and then the 2 teams that win that, they play at the highest seeded field, and they play like a regional format, and they're or a super regional format.
Because, I mean, most of the conference tournaments now are played in minor league parks that are way too big for those like type of teams, especially when it's mid-majors. I mean, other than like the Power 5, because obviously like SEC tournament, ACC tournament, and Big 12 tournament are always going to have
they get a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, like the the American Conference a few years ago when they were playing somewhere, and it was USF against UCF in the championship, and there was probably like 300 people there.
Dude, were they playing in like Clearwater or something like that? Like,
nobody wants to see that. Have one team playing at home so there can be a packed house.
No, I agree with that. I kind of like the whole like highest team hosts. Like
I
like it. Obviously, you kind of have to look at like the field.
It rewards it so much more.
Oh, 100%. Or split it up into like 2 different weekends where you'll do like a regional and like a super regional format. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, then you're gonna argue to yourself like, well, does the 1 seed really get an advantage? And it's like, well, they get to play the 8 seed.
Yeah.
But the 8 seed could have a really good pitcher. So I kind of get the argument against it. Like, are you really going to reward the regular season champion? But I think it makes, especially for the Southland, it makes things like, if the SEC, well, the SEC kind of does do that. I mean, they take the 2 brackets, and then, they take those first 6 games or first 4 games that they play, and then those 2 teams win, and then the losers that just go home.
The SEC tournament is chaos to me.
It is chaos. And, the thing with the SEC tournament is, it really only helps borderline hosting teams and teams that need to try to win to sneak in.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you're going into this SEC tournament, if you're an LSU, if you're a Florida, if you're a Vandy, Arkansas, you could lose your first 2 games and no one's gonna bat an eye because it's the SEC, like right, like what we were talking about. There's like this like notion that it's like, I mean, and it is just the best conference like out there, but there's like this like thought that it doesn't matter if you lose 2 games in the SEC tournament because it's nuts. Like, really, if you're a team, like, why do you, besides winning your conference tournament, why do you, like, if you're LSU or like Vandy, why do you need to win the SEC
there's almost
tournament?
no point.
No, unless like Wake Forest blows, and then I mean the ACC tournament's the same way. You play pool play.
Yeah.
You play pool play.
I can't believe we're playing pool play in 2023.
There's pool play in a conference tournament. Like, think how nuts that is. Like right now, and then they're
That's
like,
so dumb.
Like, you play 2 games in pool play, and then you're like, all right, the winner of that pool gets to go to the semifinal and final. And like I like the whole like idea of that, but. And I think the ACC tournament is crazier because you could have a random team win. You could have a team that is like the 11th place team win the tournament because they just happen to beat 2 teams in pool play that like don't need to win. And then they go into the semifinal and they're like, oh crap, we're 2 wins away from making the NCAA tournament when we suck like this whole year. So like for example, like this year, I'm trying to think of a team. Wow, there's a lot of teams that are like 3 seeds in the ACC this year.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, there's not very many teams that, like, right now that I'm like,
it'd be like if a Georgia Tech won, it'd be super random.
I don't know if they're going to get in. No, they might get in.
How many teams get
12.
in? 12.
So, and they have 14. So, right now, there's, like, no way. Pitt is closer to being in than Florida State is.
Yeah,
Florida State's probably not going to get in, and Pitt's not going to get in. So, yeah, but it would be like Georgia Tech. If Georgia Tech won the tournament, which is not that unfathomable, because they're going to play with way more of, like, a care than, like, a team like
North Carolina.
Like a UNC or like a Wake Forest. Like Wake Forest is going to be like, let's get our work in.
I think one of the interesting things will be Louisville this year.
Yeah, dude. It's almost sad, like, what's going on there. Like, did you watch the midweek game against Vanderbilt at all?
No.
Well, that game was sad. Like, they were winning, and then they just kind of like, and you could tell that Louisville was playing with like their season like on the line. Like they were like, we need to win this game RPI wise. Like this is gonna be huge for us if we can win. And plus, like if you could win that game and then sweep the weekend, it's like great. Like this is like exactly what we need. But then they just like lost it in extras. They played like 12. Then Vandy ended up scoring in the bottom of the 8th. With 2 outs, they scored 2 runs when it was 7-5 to tie it, and it was just like you feel so bad for like a program that like you can tell is just like they put in their Friday night starter to try to close the game because because they like needed to win it, and he ended up giving up the single with 2 outs in the 8th inning to tie the game, and it was just like you feel so bad because
that's terrible.
I mean, like, those teams, like, Louisville needed it more than Vanderbilt did. But, again, like, you're not going to be like, roll over, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, like, so sad to see it happen. But, yeah, they're going to be a team that tournament's going to mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know if they need to win it. They just, at the rate that they're going, they probably need to be in the final.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say they definitely need to make a run. Big run.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that's all we got for this week.
No, okay. Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's been a good one. Remember to like, share, subscribe. We'll see y'all next time.
All right. I will say, what are we going to